In this video, I want to talk about what I think about Zwift after using it for about 4 years. So this is coming from the standpoint of someone who loves being outside. It's one of the main reasons I ride a bike. I live in a state where I can be outside year-round riding a bike. And I just started a blog called Everyday Explorer, focused on adventures outside. So why do I do Zwift and what do I think about it? That's going to be the topic of this video. So most of the people who subscribe to my channel are cyclists, and probably most are mountain bikers or gravel riders. I'm sure I've got a handful of road riders who subscribe to the channel. But I want to talk about, just my experience of using Zwift over the past 4 years. Now, I will say that I probably average one ride a week, maybe 2 rides a month on Zwift. So I don't use it that often, but when I do use it, I actually really enjoy it, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not really going to go into my Zwift setup in this video. I've done that in another video called, I think it was My Zwift Setup for 2021. I'll put that in the description below. I'm using the same setup. I have a dedicated bike for Zwift, which is right behind me, which is why I'm in my bonus room here. Which is also a music room, YouTube studio, camera gear, location, place. We use this room for a lot of stuff. And so I keep a bike on the trainer so I don't have to set it up other than just moving it out from the wall and putting it in front of the big TV. So I've got a pretty quick setup. Again, that's about all I'll say of my setup. If you want to see my whole setup, I will put this video in the description below. Now, prior to using Zwift, I used to do the Troy Jacobson Spinnerville videos. They were DVDs, and the max I could do was an hour on those. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a good workout for when it was cold or rainy or whatever, or dark, and I didn't want to be outside away from the family. I'll talk about the applications that I use Zwift coming up. But that's what I used to use for my indoor training and just a regular, fluid trainer. Now I use the Wahoo Kickr, and I really enjoy Zwift because it's so much more engaging for me. And they're on weekends where I can't get outside and ride or choose not to, I can do 2 hours or more on Zwift and really enjoy the ride. Like today, it's Saturday, and I was not going to ride because it was 40 degrees. And, where I live, it doesn't get cold very often, but it's not going to get much out of the 40s today, and so I chose to do a 2-hour ride on Zwift. Now, some of you who live in the north and like Minnesota, you may be saying 40 degrees, I'd be in my Speedo with avocado slices on my eyes laying out. But, you really adapt to where you live. And so when it's 40 degrees and I want to do a long ride, I'd rather just use Zwift. So we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, most of my rides on Zwift are an hour if I do it after work. And so these are the scenarios where I like to use Zwift. If it's raining, obviously. I just don't like riding for a couple hours and then spending an hour cleaning my bike. I'd rather just ride Zwift and not have to worry about the cleanup afterwards. I like riding in the rain and the mud, but the cleanup I'd rather do without because I'm so busy. I use it in the summertime because I live in an area where we get some really intense afternoon thunderstorms. And if I've got a ride planned after work and one of those rolls in, and I do Zwift because I don't want to miss my workout and I want to stay fit. So like I said, I love being outside. I love being active, but I like being fit for my outdoor activities. And I personally ride 5 days a week, and I want to maintain that schedule so I can stay fit. And that's where Zwift comes in. And there are situations where I've been busy, I've been out a lot, I've been at work, and I don't want to be out again away from my family. Those are cases where I use Zwift so I can be closer to the family and again, not be out of the house after being out a lot for work and stuff. And then there are just times when I want to do one of the structured workouts on Zwift, and I like their workouts, and I like the fact that there's Erg mode, which no matter how fast you're pedaling, no matter what gear you're in, it's making you hold an exact wattage. That is super effective training. Now, some of you just like to ride, and you may not relate to that, but I used to race. I still race, but not as much as I used to. But I just like doing interval workouts for the fitness aspect of it, the challenge of it. And that Erg mode is really fun to use on Zwift and really effective. Now, Zwift Racing, this is something I've done a little bit, but I don't do it that much because it's just psychologically hard to race in a virtual environment. I mean, listen, I've had some pretty good race results. I'm a 2-time state champion for cyclocross, but the Zwift races kick my butt. Like the last few ones I've done, I've gotten dropped, and I have to do the B race because of my threshold levels. And I've got dropped, and it's just psychologically hard to push yourself like that in a Zwift race. In a real environment, on my trails, in a cyclocross race, whatever, I just push so much harder. I'll get my heart rate 185 or higher on those kind of races. On Zwift, it's hard to get my heart rate to 170, 175. Just, again, I think it's just psychological. But again, I just don't use Zwift that often for the racing. I also don't really do the group rides. I just like getting on Zwift and either following a course. Like today, I did a 30-mile course in Watopia. I think it's called Three Sisters. And so I just plugged it or started the course, and it just directed me on the whole course. There are times I also like just following the map and navigating my way around whatever world I'm in and using my phone to make turns and go here and follow on the map. It may sound corny, but it's a little bit of exploration, being able to like go here and see this and just make your own turns and choices. So, it just adds a little bit more of a reality to it. Another thing that I'll mention is that Zwift is my favorite online riding platform. It's really the only one that I use now. I've tried a few other ones. I did a video that compared them. I would say my next favorite is probably Full Gas. And there's other platforms where you're just seeing like real footage, real camera footage, and I really like those. And some people may prefer that. What I like about Zwift is the competitive aspect of it. So you can, try to catch someone on a climb. Someone passes you, you get on their wheel and you try to pass them. It just adds another element to it, another dimension. And some of the other ones do that. But, I just like to keep it simple and just stick with one. But I do like Full Gas. I'll just mention that. I like the platform. I like the iPad app for it. So that's another good one that you may want to check out. And I'll link that video below where I did a review of Full Gas and Ruby and RGT. I also like the challenge of climbing in Zwift. I live in a flat area, and even though we have a lot of rolling hills on our mountain bike trails and on some of our gravel roads, I like climbing on Zwift and, being able to look up and see a climb and know you have to get up there. I use the Kickr climb. You'll see that in my 2021 Zwift Setup video. And I really like the Kickr climb because it elevates my bike, and from a training aspect, I get to use those little changes in muscles that you use when the bike's elevated. So I do like the climbing aspect on Zwift. And in case you're curious and you do Zwift, my favorite world to ride in is Watopia, just because of the variety, followed by France. I like France, and I've done the Mont Ventoux climb one time. That's a long ride to get to the top of that thing. And so, yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on Zwift. I mean, again, a little bit of a free-form discussion. I made some bullet points of things I want to say, but, just want to share my experience of Zwift from a mountain biker standpoint. I do like it. There are situations where I really enjoy it, especially when you've got inclement weather or cold weather or whatever. I just wanted to make this video to help some of you out there who may be trying to decide, do you do Zwift? Because it's an investment, right? I mean, it's a $15 a month membership, and then you've got to buy the trainer, and if you want to use the Wahoo Kickr climb, I mean, that's another investment. So, it's a pretty serious investment to get into it, but to maintain fitness and be healthy over the years, I think, we can all agree that investing into your health is a good thing. Oh, and there's one more thing I want to mention. I got the Steerzo Smart, which allows you to turn, but this thing has honestly been collecting dust because I always use the Kickr climb to elevate and drop the front end on climbs and descents. So just want to mention that. So that's my Zwift video. Questions, comments, drop those below. Let me know your experience of Zwift. How do you like it? That kind of stuff. Thanks for watching.